I don't know about you, but this is exciting. And I guess you have to actually sit in my office and see me praying and crying all at the same time, trying to figure out how we can create a better opportunity and create a place that I believe builds on the legacy that so many people fought, bled, and died for, to be just embraced as a part of the overall vision and inclusion of the city of Birmingham. So this is indeed a great day for me.
Hello, everyone. How you doing, Mr. Holloway? I think you're on mute.
I'm great, Elijah. How you doing this evening?
Great. Well, welcome to How Did Our Black Wall Streets Develop by the historic African American Neighborhood District Summit, hosted by none other than us, Urban Impact. I am Elijah Davis. I'm here with my executive director, Ivan Holloway. So welcome, everyone. How you doing today, Mr. Holloway?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so excited to have you all here today. The purpose of this initiative is really to elevate and enhance these beautiful historic Black main streets and Black neighborhoods by connecting and strengthening the people who serve them. This is something that's extremely important to us as practitioners, as enthusiasts, as residents, and we're so excited to just do an introductory video and discussion about these historic Black main streets, historic Black Wall Streets, through the case study of Birmingham's 4th Avenue Business District. So first off, I want to introduce Urban Impact as the community economic development agency that works with the community-based organization that serves the historic 4th Avenue Business District, as well as the Civil Rights National Monument District and surrounding neighborhoods. So I feel that there's no one better to talk and to lead this initiative than Mr. Holloway. So Mr. Holloway, tell us about your experience with Fourth Avenue, why you're here, your connection to the district, and why this organization is important.
Thank you so much, Elijah. And I appreciate this forum to be able to talk a little bit about the work that we're doing at Urban Impact, its history, and our work forward. Urban Impact is a 501c3 community-based organization that was established in 1980. The business owners of the Fourth Avenue Business District, along with political leaders at that time, wanted to make sure that there was an opportunity to save the African American historic Main Street of Birmingham, and thus they seeded the organization Urban Impact, with a great deal of emphasis on historic preservation and business development. And our work today, we stand on the shoulders of those founders, of those persons who were mindful enough during that period of time to want to even begin to save a district like the Fourth Avenue Business District. The Fourth Avenue Business District, I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later, but I want to just begin by saying that the Fourth Avenue Business District is one of those historic districts that has a deep-rooted understanding of economic development and what that means to the African American community. Before most people understood what economic development was, the Fourth Avenue Business District was filled with entrepreneurs and pioneers who were setting the stage for an African American economy that long lasted many of those individuals. When we look at the structure of our district, which is really Third Avenue, Fourth Avenue, and Fifth Avenue, then we get to a broader area, which is the Civil Rights District. It was all filled with a number of African American residences, African American retail operators, as well as just a number of Black professionals during that time. And we are really, really honored to be in a position today to figure out strategies and to develop plans that honor that legacy and honor the work that they laid during the early years of the formation of the district. I'm excited to be at the helm of Urban Impact as executive director. I'm from Birmingham. I grew up in Smithfield, which is just to the west of this particular district. 16th Street Baptist Church, have been there. My family joined there back in the early 1920s. So we have just an enormous tie to the Fourth Avenue Business District, as well as the broader community. The work that we do at Urban Impact has transformed over the years, but I think the root of our work still remains the same: to make sure that there is a strong business class, to make sure that we are socially connected to the community and the broader community of Birmingham, as well as preserving the legacy of those folks who came before us. We're excited about the work that we do. And we don't get paid a lot, but that's okay, because the work that we do is extremely valuable to the next generation of entrepreneurs and African American property owners and those social innovators that we believe will come after us. So making sure that this space is kept, making sure that this place is kept, and making sure that this place grows is an enormous opportunity that we have before us. And that's the work that we do on a daily basis. When we get up in the morning, we're thinking about 4th Avenue and the surrounding area. And when we go to sleep at night, we're thinking about how we can make a better community that represents the excellence of Black people and all that we've been through, but more importantly, what we know we can aspire to.
Great. So, Mr. Holloway, tell me, what's your favorite or one of your first memories of 4th Avenue? You say you grew up in an adjacent neighborhood. Do you have just one or two memories that you really just thought captured, this is the block right here?
So there are a couple of them. I think that I mentioned earlier that the district was filled with a series of professionals, and a number of those professionals were doctors. And so, on occasion, I would have to go to my doctor, and my doctor was located in the district. And that was probably the first exposure to professionals who were operating at a very, very high level. And most folks didn't even understand it or know it at the time. But these are folks who were also in the profession of medicine, but they were also entrepreneurs as well, because they were operating a business. And each time that I would visit my doctor, I would just get excited because he was another Black face. I can recall as a child, many of the books that we were forced to read to learn how to read, they were filled with images that did not look like us. And when you had an opportunity to really get a chance to see a doctor, and it was an African-American doctor, that was pretty exciting. My family was one of those families that made sure that we were exposed to those Black professionals who were at the top of their profession. And growing up in 16th Street, I had a chance to be educated by a number of those Black professionals on an everyday basis. And it was also exciting. I always tell the story to one of our business owners, Miss Kirby, who owns Kirby Insurance, that her father was one of my mentors before I knew what a mentor was. He was my Sunday school teacher. And Mr. Kirby was probably one of the best dressers you could ever find throughout Birmingham. But he was a professional to a T. Everything that he did was at a very, very high level. And, he left a lasting imprint on me and my life. And that's one of the reasons why I'm still at 16th Street, because I want to leave that kind of lasting impression on some young person as well. Miss Kirby, who is in the second generation of her business, it gives me great pleasure to know that her father was such a mentor to me, and to know that her business is still up and running. We are just really excited. The other thing I will say is that my mom, she attended the Booker T. Washington, not the Booker T. Washington, but the A.G. Gaston's school, which was the Booker T. Washington College. And she had her foundation there and worked for one of the doctors in the district, Dr. Jefferson, who was in the Masonic Temple for a number of years. We had the occasion, Elijah, to actually visit the Masonic Temple as they were pulling various artifacts out of the building for storage. And you could still see the name Dr. Jefferson up as one of the tenants in the Masonic Temple. I can go on and on and on with various stories. The Ella Hall was by far one of the premier places that we could go to. I attended several parties and dances at the LR Hall. There was also a Fourth Avenue YMCA. And the Fourth Avenue YMCA was the local place where, again, you learn how to swim and you learned how to dance. You learned all kinds of things, as well as the A.G. Gaston Motel. When I was old enough to attend events at the A.G. Gaston Motel, that was one of the first upscale places that we were able to attend. I attended several fashion shows there and hosted several fashion shows there back in my day. But just nothing but fun memories, because it was a place where African Americans could feel comfortable and could actually thrive in every aspect of the word.
Well, Mr. Holloway, that's great. You said something about professionals and doctors and the Masonic Temple, and I see a comment in the chat. Shout out to Dr. Stewart. Absolutely, we still have a cluster of Black doctors with Dr. Smith, Dr. Adams, Dr. Stewart. But let's hear from a Fourth Avenue historian about what that experience was like even more.
In the Masonic Temple building, there were many businesses. There were a number of professionals. There were probably 8 physicians, 5 dentists, and all of the insurance companies that did business in Birmingham, with the exception of the Booker T. Washington Company, had offices in the Masonic Temple building. There were offices on the 7th floor, the 6th floor, the 5th floor. Yeah, those floors. These are the insurance companies I'm talking about. My office was on the 5th floor. There were other lawyers down the hall. There were 2 other lawyers down the hall. And on the 7th floor, there were 3 other lawyers. And the Grand Master of the Masons, who owned the building, was a lawyer. He was from Huntsville. His name was Charles V. Henley, Hendley. But he did not practice law. He came from a family that was pretty wealthy. They owned a lot of cotton land. And so he would plant his fields in cotton, and they'd go out and they'd pick the cotton. And he also owned a cotton brokerage company.
So, Mr. Holloway, who was that we just got through hearing from?
That, of course, was Attorney J. Mason Davis, and the Davis family dates back almost to the founding of Birmingham, and I can't begin to tell you the kind of impact that the Davis family and there's several iterations of the Davis family name that I'm sure J. Mason can really expound upon, but they are very, very instrumental in shaping the Birmingham community as we know it today. Mr. Mason also talked about, Mr. J. Mason Davis also talked about the attorneys that were in the building. I want to just add also, Elijah, that at one point in time, the district also had as many as 3 African-American banks at one time. So not only did the Masonic Temple house a lot of the professionals and the insurance company, but when we talk about a Black Wall Street, financing and finances is a big part of that, along with insurance. So having 3 banks that were African American owned in one place, a plethora of insurance companies, doctors, lawyers, and not even to get into the restaurants and the other businesses that were also associated there. It just made for this wonderfully eclectic African American business community. And it allowed that community to really thrive because guess what? They were all utilizing each other's services and products and operations as a part of it. The churches were using the banks. The banks were utilizing the service sector. The service sector was utilizing the patrons from others. And so it just worked as this wonderful social machine that was driving an economy that resulted in, Elijah, a lot of young people going to college, a lot of other businesses being started, and the pass down of businesses to their families. So that early start of the district was extremely important, and the work and the housing of businesses in around the Masonic Temple just made for this dense population of African Americans all in one space.
Well, Mr. Holloway, I think you said something, and we heard from Attorney J. Mason Davis and others around this sort of cluster of Black businesses. And on the screen, we have some percentages that we'll talk about. The focus of our webinar discussion today is how did they develop? And so we'll talk about not so much, as a scholastic authority, but really citing some foundational work and using Birmingham as a case study of how this sort of phenomenon develops countrywide and why it's important. We're 100 years thinking about the remembrance, the reflection of domestic terrorism as it pertains to Greenwood, and how what some scholars like Dr. Julie D.K. Walker would call the golden age of Black business in the early 20th century, that generation two, maybe parents away from slavery, or one parent away from slavery, how they began to develop enterprises under the stain and structure of Jim Crow. So experientially, we'll talk about the paper and its scholar, but experientially, Mr. Holloway, you're younger than, Jim Crow, essentially. But, explain to us in Birmingham terms why 4th Avenue was separate from the rest of downtown.
So Birmingham is what you would call a post-industrial city, and it was it's a post-Civil War city, and I apologize for that. It's a post-Civil War city, which means that it was formed after the Civil War had ended. Birmingham's founding was in 1871. And during that time, you had a series of individuals that came from all over to make Birmingham the city that it is today. It was filled with people from Irish descent, people from African descent, people from Greek descent, and I can go on and on and on. So it was an eclectic group of individuals and families that made up Birmingham. And during that time frame of Birmingham's formal development, as I understand it, African American businesses were located and could be located throughout the footprint of Birmingham. And from the stats that Elijah will share, you'll be able to see some of that in terms of where businesses were located and the percentages of businesses. But as Birmingham began to develop and it began to develop its social structure and its social class, there began a change in where they wanted to see African American businesses. So beginning in the late 1900s, the late 1800s into the early 1900s, we began to see the shift of African American business from being all over downtown to push to the 4th Avenue, which was called the Black Business District at the time. That was because of policy. Which was set by the local government that really pushed African American business to this part of downtown Birmingham. I will say that even though it was pushed to one particular part of downtown Birmingham, it is one of the few communities of African American development that is in a downtown. And so we have this wonderful business district that is located just blocks from where the courthouse is, where we would term now as the core of the city. But we're in downtown Birmingham. I think over the life of Jim Crow, we saw the growth of the 4th Avenue Business District as being a place that businesses could, in fact, be free to do their business and to operate within the guidelines of the city structure. But at the same time, there was also this social network of African American businesses being built that supported not only the work of the district, but it really built the social class of the African American community. By the time we got to the 1950s, which was probably really beginning the height of Jim Crow, between the 40s up through the early 60s, we're at the real height of Jim Crow being forced upon us. And that's when you really see 4th Avenue begin to shine and have a greater stake in terms of having the number of African American businesses located along what we would term as a main street now, but it housed most of the African American businesses that were not only in downtown, but for the most part in Birmingham.
No, that's great. And I wanted to highlight one of the comments. First of all, our Director of Compliance and Special Projects, Ms. Youngblood, says she began her career at Citizens Federal Savings and Loan, which is an anchor bank that you talked about. And I think that's extremely important. And, you know, one of the things that makes us unique is that we're not only a national monument in an urban setting, but we're a historic Black business district in the city center core. You know, 18th Street, 17th Street, that's all within the city center grid pattern. And yet arose this sort of this thing of, you know, business because of Jim Crow. And we can see on the table here that you've got, you know, out of the Black businesses in Birmingham and particularly downtown, you can see the rate on 4th Avenue increase over time. So here's a great place to really talk about the ecology of Black business districts. So we stand here today able to articulate some of these patterns, how these historic Black main streets, historic African American neighborhood commercial districts come to being. in great part to some foundational work done by a great scholar named Dr. Franklin Wilson. And so Dr. Franklin Wilson was a demographer by trade, and was a longtime professor at University of Wisconsin-Madison, but began his career truly studying Black business districts and other sort of sociological and urban planning patterns, and was really ahead of his time. He unfortunately passed late last year, and wanted to be a part of this discussion. But his paper, which we definitely recommend, is so foundational. And what's so cool about it is that he based it on Birmingham, and it's had reverberations and citations elsewhere. And what's so important here as we talk about how, where the district is today and where it will go, is understanding, thinking about the concentrations of Black business ownership, but also thinking about the urban decay. And this is a real issue that happens in the 70s, but also thinking about some of the patterns that have stayed the same, some of the patterns that have changed in terms of industry concentration, all of that. And so we stand in so much debt to Dr. Franklin Wilson. And if you're not familiar with his work, I really encourage you to become familiar with his work, because it is so key to this work. And a interesting piece about the Black business district is its diversity. So I'm going to share a table from his paper. His paper was published in the journal Black Political Economy in the 1970s. And you can really begin to see sort of this clustering effect due to Jim Crow and its diversity. And one of the things that you'll notice about this particular table is that you'll see the drastic change in the 60s going into the 70s. So this whole notion of between urban renewal, urban decay, and integration really has. But just as Mason talked about, the amount of eating, drinking establishments, barbers, beauticians, but all those, also the professional services, clothing, theaters. I mean, we had everything in one place. And so the question becomes, as we think about this really unique legacy, what that means for us today in the present. So as we transition our conversation to the present, I want to highlight a historic business, a retail business in our district that can tell a different part of the story.
We've been open since 1943. We started on the grandfather in 1999. My grandfather passed. My father took over. He passed recently in April of 2019. And now I'm the operator. We're the oldest business in the Jackson business district. We are famous for our South Focus toothpaste line and I would like to see more over recognition of the right there, taking a distance from outside. Let's do something about it. This district has remained. Um, and we've actually, as a restaurant, we've been stable throughout. we're one of the few Black-owned properties.
So, Mr. Holloway, as we think about, as we just heard, Ms. Nelson, who represents a third generation business owner, second generation property owner, 75-plus-year-old business. What about her story really highlights the beauty and also the challenges of the district today?
Well, I'll start off with the beauty. The beauty is, we often talk about only leaving a legacy of social progress. But if you look at what families have been able to do in the district, to include Miss Nelson and her family, is to pass down business along with property. And that property in this particular case is commercial property. We rarely see that happening in everyday life of African Americans, where there is a thriving business that's being passed on to the next generation. And as you have stated, that she's the Mr. Nelson's daughter, but there was another set before them that were the Nelson brothers, and to be able to leave that, and not only is that the case for Miss Nelson, but there are several other businesses that have been passed down as well. We already talked about the Kirby and the Kirby Insurance Company. There is Mr. Greg Gratton and the owner of Green Acres. There is the funeral home, Poole's Funeral Home, that is in another generation. There is several barbershops, one being owned by the Hornbuckles, that is in their next generation. Not only the business itself, but again, property as well, that is commercial property. And this is something that we find hard and harder to come upon, but yet we have this still remaining in this African American business district. And when we talk about, the future rests with what we possess and what we can utilize as an asset to grow our wealth and grow our worth in a community. And I would say that we've been able to be witnesses to a number of those take place in this particular district. I think as we think about the future, one of the things that we want to make sure that happens is that there is a next generation, and that next generation is both purchasers of property and who can utilize that as a major asset for their family and be able to pass it down. But the other piece of it is being a part of the economy and making sure that there are African American business owners who are offering African American jobs. I think that is extremely important. So as we look to the future, I think we are looking at those opportunities that really build the next class of business owners and property owners in the Central Business District of Birmingham.
Well, what do you think, just understanding Birmingham as we sort of come to a close, and just as a reminder, this is also a discussion. So if you have any questions, comments, emojis, concerns, place them in the chat. We love to have a dialogue. But we have over 70 businesses, 58 Black businesses, 25 plus Black property owners. What does this place mean, and why is this work of creating a national network of like-minded districts and people important to the furtherance of Black people in Black community?
So it means a great deal, but there are a couple of things that we can measure, and we can measure the number of jobs that are created. We can measure the growth of wealth. We can measure the social impact that we make by having situations where we command and we operate on a daily basis on behalf of others. I think a few minutes ago, you mentioned that Ms. Carla Youngblood, who serves as our compliance director, her first job was at Citizens Federal Bank, now Citizens Trust. That's extremely important, because what that does, it tells us that a foundation was laid, and Carla is a very accomplished CPA, and her foundation was laid at a Black institution in a Black community, which I would hope that's part of why she wants to continue to be a part of Urban Impact, because she feels compelled to give back. I think when we think about these types of districts and making sure that we're all connected, I think that there are a number of lessons that we can learn from one another. And I think that the work that we do and the road that we're on at Urban Impact, we want to be able to share our lessons learned. We want people to understand some of the pitfalls we've fallen into. But more important, we think that there is just this wonderful camaraderie around the United States, where there are stories that have been untold and unearthed that we believe speak to the excellence of the African American experience. And I think by connecting, we can help people understand the worth of our organizations, as well as the worth of our communities, and ultimately get to the worth of a people. So I think that as we connect with various districts and neighborhoods from across the country, we see this as an opportunity, to really tell the world about, our strong economy as it relates to historic, but as it relates to future generations around job development, social development, education, and the whole 9 yards. So I am excited to be connected with HAANDs and the work that HAANDs will do. I'm excited to know that there are other organizations who are out there, and we're not on this road alone. But I will tell you that every day, waking up and going to work and working on behalf of the African American experience is quite a thrill for me. And I would invite others to investigate how they can get involved in their local communities, to be involved in organizations like an Urban Impact, like African American Preservation, and the like, because it's extremely important.
Thank you. So we do have, this is a great time to start the conversation and have questions. I want to tell you what we put in the chat. So I got a few notes that the volume was a little low on Miss Nelson's video. I did notice that, but you can definitely look at our whole spotlight series that we did last summer with Black businesses in our district. You can look at that. You can look at Dr. Franklin Wilson. You can also look at the series that we did, Nobody Knows My Name. So big shout out to Morgan Richardson, who has been our intern for the past year, and Elizabeth Jones for doing the Spotlight series, and of course Daryl Washington for quarterbacking that initiative with Nobody Knows My Name, with the generous support of the Alabama Humanities Foundation, where we actually talk with folks like J. Mason Davis, Victor Blackledge, and led by folks like Magdalene Hamilton, who we'll talk more about on this ecology of Black business districts later. So we do have one question to get us started. Ms. Vicki Howell says, do you feel a Black space for Black businesses to thrive in an era where so much business is now conducted online? Is a physical place still necessary? And that's a great question. It's like physical Black Main Street, digital Black Main Street. What's the relevance? If you've got a comment or a question to Ms. Howell, put it in the chat. We'd love to strike up the conversation.
It is great to see Miss Vicki Howell out there. Vicki is a longtime friend. I won't tell you how long, but it is great to see her on the line. And Elijah, I don't know if you want me to address any of that now, but I can give you my 2 cents. So by trade, I'm an urban planner, and one of the things that we are wrestling with in the profession of planning right now is, how we actually move forward with the built environment, considering not only the online presence of small business, but the effects of COVID and whatever will come after COVID that will, impair our ability to be in spaces a lot going forward. I will tell you that there is still something about the social experience. And, there are those who still like to meet and greet people, and being in places and spaces that have a particular storyline will be extremely important. I think that although Elijah likes to call me one of the younger baby boomer, but baby boomer just the same. I have moved to doing a lot of purchases online as well. But I will tell you that when I look for the ultimate experience, it is where people are. And when I travel, I am going to where people are. Even when I'm here in Birmingham, I look to where people are. So I think some places won't matter, but I think other places that have a wonderful storyline, a rich heritage and history, I think those are things that we can build upon, and there will be plenty of opportunities for business growth and for businesses to participate in particular places. Like we have seen over the past 20 years, the demise of the mall, right? So there are certain places that will no longer have prominence in our lifestyle. But I think that we are still looking for unique experiences, and those unique experiences will, in my opinion, provide dividends in a big way for those who want to participate.
I really couldn't have said it any better. We got to create just, what you talked about, Mr. Holloway, and, just those experiences, those things will be lost to us. That sense of pride will be lost to us, that sense of belongingness. And just on a personal note, this really begins for me from Mobile and listening to my grandmother talk about Davis Avenue. And that Davis Avenue that I grew up in is still there, the Smithfield of Mobile. And so we have to create a new generation, and place and experience and belongingness is still important. Although I will say there's still this great opportunity to do both, right? Like we have to, develop and widen our market through digital strategies and online presence. We cannot just be in place, right? I have not seen a phone book in a very long time, but there are folks, that still use it, but, you will not be able to find those after the 2020s, I assure you. So I'm holding on to mine, my grandmother's particularly, because it
Right.
was there. Well, I think this has been a rich conversation and just a rich beginning. And so this type of conversation, we're just one fraction of 30 or more of these communities that were across the nation, in the Midwest, in the South, in the East, in the West, of just Black folks meeting their own needs. And we at a place, especially in history, where we're really trying to figure out how do we meet our own needs and how do we continue to have a place of safety. I think that to the question, we had when EJ was killed in a suburb of Birmingham, the first question I asked myself was if there was a viable place that he was more safe at, would that have been the outcome? And that's sort of the unfortunate piece of life and death. We have to create these places of safety as well. And that is the work that we're really intending to do with this particular network. So I invite you, so check your comments. If you enjoyed this discussion, number one, we've got a pub. The next discussion, which you can find on HAANDs.org. This is a joint venture opportunity with Sweet Auburn Works in the richest Negro district in the world, as it was once known, in Atlanta. And so we're excited to partner with them, and with generous funding with the National Trust of Historic Preservation, African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund, with support from the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. We're excited to bring together the HAANDs Historic African American Neighborhood District Summit, which will be occurring May 27th through 28th, right in line with the centennial of the remembrance of Greenwood, and what we hope to be a long-term vision and strategy of networking, advocacy, and action and resources. And so that's what we invite you. So next 2 weeks from now, you tune in May 6th to this Sweet Auburn Works to make sure that you look at the importance of Black land ownership and control and cultural heritage preservation, led by our partner, Sweet Auburn Works, Leanne Varnell. He'll be speaking with community developers, urbanists, and the like about the importance, because we're still here in Fourth Avenue because of some really cool public policy that was 30 years ahead of its time in the Arrington administration. So if you like this conversation, share it, like it, but I also want you to do something else. I want you to definitely go register for the next conversation happening again on May 6th. So any closing thoughts, Mr. Holloway?
No, I will just say that it's been a pleasure to be here with you, Elijah, to kick off our HAANDs work and to talk a little bit about urban impact and the historic Fourth Avenue Business District. Thank you for having me.
We're in the same office, but absolutely. Well,
I didn't have to be your featured speaker.
So we got one comment from our partner, Sweet Auburn Works, with some nice syllables here. You can understand the positive agglomeration effect of Black capital and Black business acumen in one physical place, and the ability to grow, learn, and build with one another. Absolutely. We completely agree with that. So again, please do come out and register for the next session on May 6th, and that should be in the chat. Somebody put an emoji in the chat to say that they registered before we go. HAANDSATL.eventbrite.com. you can make sure you do that. And as we close out, we are always love, to talk about it from an experiential and a practitioner standpoint, but we are extremely, sort of glad to be stewards of this heritage. And so as we close, we're going to close with a video about what is this national monument business that we keep talking about. And we hope to see you in 2 weeks. And we also hope to see you at the conference.
If you work in a team, you should be using Monday.com. It's a platform to manage any team and any.
While across the country the civil rights movement was in full swing, the epicenter of violent
Well, thank y'all so much for coming out. Thank y'all for, rocking with us. Thank you for just being committed and excited. Again, see you May 6th, see you May 27th through 28th, and we will see you soon. And if you want to learn more about us, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at _HAANDs. And also check out our other welcome video that me and Leanna Varnell from Sweet Auburn Works did. So y'all have a great evening, and we'll talk to you soon.